Wow, Nadja has very red hair. Amazing. Hello, everyone. Good, whatever it is for you, morning, afternoon, evening, night for our friends in India. And yeah, good moment for everyone, of course, hopefully. Let's start with some prayers, especially refuge in the four immeasurables. Where are they? In the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly, I take refuge until I attain enlightenment. Through the merit of practicing generosity and the rest, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly, I take refuge until I attain enlightenment. Through the merit of practicing generosity and the rest, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly, I take refuge until I attain enlightenment. Through the merit of practicing generosity and the rest, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. And then the four immeasurables, which are sort of our fundamental aspiration that we all share, hopefully. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the genuine happiness devoid of suffering. And may they dwell in boundless equanimity that is free from attachment and aversion. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the genuine happiness devoid of suffering. May they dwell in boundless equanimity that is free from attachment and aversion. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the genuine happiness devoid of suffering. And may they dwell in boundless equanimity that is free from attachment and aversion. Okay, yeah, welcome everyone to this two-session kind of thing called sharing is caring. I learned that phrase actually from Dotulku Rinpoche. For example, when I take pictures and he wants to have them too, then he says sharing is caring. And then usually now I say Schelling, which is my name. Schelling is sharing. Anyway, it is about dedication, and that even on a based on a very classical text, the Bodhicharyavatarā. So thanks to Dzongtse Khyentse Rinpoche and also to the red-haired Nadja, who I think now is not shown anymore. This was a quote-unquote teaching cycle that was started 2018, initially with Russian translation. So we went through all the different chapters, and yeah, and then there were some artistic breaks and so on. And now it's finally time to conclude. And even though if you haven't joined the previous ones, I hope it still makes sense today and in 2 days if you want to join, just to focus on the last chapter, or in general, let's focus on dedication. So that is what is going to happen. Yeah, in case you didn't, you're not familiar with Shantideva's Bodhicharyavatarā. So basically the first 9 chapters, they talk about the 6 paramitas. So they talk about the way of the Bodhisattva, or the style of a Bodhisattva, or the conduct of a Bodhisattva. So there we're practicing letting go on all different kinds of levels, like letting go of stinginess, or this pack rat mentality, like collecting stuff, and we practice generosity as the antidote, or we are letting go of mindlessness and negative behavior, and instead we are practicing the second parameter of discipline, ethical conduct. And then in the third parameter, we are letting go of being irritated or angry or impatient, and instead we are practicing patience. And then the fourth parameter, we are letting go of laziness, and instead we are practicing enthusiasm or diligence, like the joy of doing good stuff for others. And fifth parameter, we are letting go of being dependent on things or beings, like not getting distracted, by getting attached to things or beings. And instead we are practicing meditation. And then parameter number 6 was then the 9th chapter, which is about letting go of ignorance or dodgy views, and we are practicing wisdom instead. So that is sort of what hopefully all of you are Mahayana practitioners. That is hopefully what you are doing every day anyway, and that accumulates like a lot of goodness or virtue or merit, and that is now the idea that because we care for others, that we share these positive energies or virtues or merit, good vibes or whatever. That is the main idea of what we are doing. When we are dedicating, that we have accumulated some virtues, we have accumulated some positivities, and that we dedicate that to our own Buddhahood, which is then for the sake of all sentient beings, or the other way around, we dedicate it to the welfare of all sentient beings, and for that we want to attain Buddhahood. And so this is our aim, our twofold aim, that we lead all sentient beings to Buddhahood, and that is only possible if we are attaining Buddhahood ourselves. So this is the general idea, and dedication is important, because if we don't dedicate, then whatever we accumulated, like positively or virtuously, it can easily waste. It can, for example, be destroyed if we are angry. Then this virtuous atmosphere in our mind is getting destroyed or disrupted. Or maybe if we did something good and then we are bragging about it, posting it on Facebook or Insta or wherever, and showing off, what kind of good things we did. Or maybe also if we are regretting our virtuous actions, that is also then destroying the goodness of the action. Therefore, it is always encouraged to sort of quickly, whenever we did something positive, whenever we accumulated goodness, that we then seal it and augment and transform it through dedication. And these 3 words, I think these are the 3 qualities of dedication, that if we like sealing it, the examples from the sutra is like if we accumulate a little drop of merit, and if we put that in a big ocean, that is sort of the process of dedication, then the small drop of merit that we have accumulated, if we put it in an ocean, then it survives as long as the ocean survives. So it's sort of sealed. It means that if we dedicate something for Buddhahood, then that something that was dedicated, that virtue, then will not be lost until that aim is achieved. And then, yeah, the other qualities are that it's getting like augmented or transformed, so that it's really like, even though it's just a small act, maybe like offering coffee to someone, but if we then connect it with dedication prayers, then yeah, the small act is getting or multiplied or stronger or transformed in something that then, thanks to the dedication, is leading towards the goal, which is Buddhahood. And there the example is like a goldsmith, if you have some or whatever smith, if you have some metal, and then the goldsmith is transforming it into like precious ornaments, and is augmenting and transforming it, and by that making it more precious. So therefore, it's really important to dedicate, to share all the good things that have been accumulated. And before we soon go into the verses, it's if we look into the entire Mahayana, we always talk about two truths or two accumulations, and dedication is, of course, a practice on the relative truth level. It is a practice of I am doing something good, and I am sharing that, and I'm giving that to somebody else. So that is quite on a relative level, like quite dualistic, of a dedicator, of something dedicated, of a recipient of that dedication. And so that it's not staying in that relative realm. It is important during the dedication to also, as much as possible, generate the wisdom of non-duality, so that we are free of these three things, that we are not grasping to the dedicator, or to that thing that is dedicated, or to the receiver of dedication, but that we know that all these three things are not really truly existent, but more like a dream or like an illusion. And that understanding, of course, we have reached when we studied the 9th chapter of wisdom. Or we might have that understanding because our guru was introducing us to the nature of things. And even if it's just an intellectual understanding, it's still good to have that in our mind when we are dedicating. And then there's also the trick that we know, or I know at least, that my dedication is, and my wisdom is very limited. And therefore, very often we find dedication prayers where we then actually just follow the examples of other great bodhisattvas who dedicated, and we just say, just like the Buddhas or the bodhisattvas, like Manjushri, Samandabhadra, likewise, I will also dedicate, so we are following their footsteps, and by that also, we are upgrading our dedication to a level of more non-duality, I think that is sort of what I wanted to say in the beginning before we go to the verses. And you will see in the verses there are many, many details, and it's often really encouraged to, when we dedicate, when we share this goodness or this virtue, that we maybe do a general dedication, like may all beings attain Buddhahood. But on the other hand, it's always good then also be very detailed, so we can, what we find in this chapter, we will go through all the different realms and the different sufferings that are happening in all these 6 realms of existence. And we can, of course, include our friends, or whoever, or our enemies, or bad dictators, or whoever, who needs the goodness, who needs that virtue. So we can be then also very specific in our dedication. So, do you have anything to discuss so far? If Emilia is even saying no, then there cannot be anything. No, but any non-Emilia participant.
Arne, maybe one little thing.
Yes, Jon?
Just for my understanding. So after sealing, when you are regretting then the gift you gave after the dedication, is it still lessening the fruit, so to speak, or does the seal really seal it off, and can you regret whatever you want? Get back on your goodness, so to speak.
Like officially, they say if you really seal with a proper dedication, especially if you do it with the wisdom that is non-dual and sees the lack of true existence of dedicated and receiver of dedication, then it's really sealed and nothing that happens later can ever destroy it. But yeah, on my level, as a wannabe bodhisattva, I of course don't have that capability. Therefore, my dedication is maybe not that 100% safe. So therefore, I should post dedication. I should work on not regretting, I think, because regretting positive things is always bad. You know, if we are really judgmental. But it's true. You know, because even after a successful dedication, if we regret it, then yeah, we enhance the habit of regretting good things, and that is really not something that we want to acquire. And but the opposite, we want to really rejoice always in the goodness that we did or that others did, and we want to, of course, to regret the negative actions that we and others did. Okay, then let's go to the verses. And I'm using, if you don't mind, Stephen Batchelor's translation, even though I'm officially and truly not a fan of his view. But his translation is really good for non-native speakers like me, because it's quite to the point and very simple and direct. I think more beautiful is maybe Padmakara's translation. So yeah, but use whatever translation you want. I will just share the verses one by one. And here we go, first one. Through the virtue of having composed this work, a guide to the Bodhisattva's way of life, the Bodhicharyavatara, may all living beings come to engage in the Bodhisattva's conduct. So that is really the very first verse here of chapter 10, which has 58 verses, and it's a small summary of dedication, and yeah, already like a practical advice, especially if you read different commentaries. Then there's really like a practice of dedication by visualizing all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 3 times and 10 directions in front of us, sort of like a refuge tree, if you want, you know. And visualization, even though the word suggests like more the eyes, you know, but that is not so important. But the main thing is that you feel their presence in front of you. If you want, you know, they can sit on each atom or each quark or however far you want to go. And so basically everything is full with Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And then, of course, you can also visualize all sentient beings. And here, yeah, Shantideva is dedicating the virtue of having composed the Bodhicharyavatarā, or in our case, if we are practitioners of the Bodhicharyavatarā, or in other words, the 6 paramitas, or in other words, bodhicitta, if we are that, you know, then let's always dedicate that, you know, whatever we did with the good heart of bodhicitta, that we dedicate that to the Buddhahood of all sentient beings, or specifically in this verse, you know, that we dedicated that all sentient beings, train themselves on the path of the Bodhisattva. that they have the lifestyle of a bodhisattva. And so, yeah, so all sentient beings are here the receivers, and we can, of course, bring in other prayers or other aspirations that we might have. But yeah, you will see in the following verses, it will be getting very, very detailed. Okay, then maybe the next one. So we actually, maybe that I could say, the whole chapter has like 3 aims, you know, what we are dedicating for. And now when we are coming to the detailed explanation of a dedication, then it starts sort of with the first of these 3 aims. And the first aim is, yeah, what we usually think about, you know, that we really want to dedicate this virtue as a cause for the happiness and welfare and benefit of others, of all sentient beings. That will be also the main part of the entire chapter. But then there's also the second aim, and that is that we want to, that we dedicate our virtues so that we will be able to manifest and perform the enlightened Buddha activities. I'm sure in other texts like Bodhichitta, you have come across this, or also in, of course, Uttara Tantra Shastra, that Buddha activity is one major point when it's talking about Buddhas, and basically the idea is like these dedications and aspirations. They are not really causing the Buddha activities, but they are sort of enabling them. And thanks to the Buddha activities, then the benefit of beings are really fulfilled. And for us, or for me on the path, you know, there, of course, is more like this effort involved to do these aspirations, to then at some point manifest the Buddha activities. But once we are Buddha, then these Buddha activities are completely like effortless, and they are just spontaneously manifesting for the welfare of beings. So this part is then the second aim. And the third aim of dedication is that we basically pray for the long life of Buddha Dharma. And yeah, that is only one verse in this text, but it's, of course, yeah, crucial and fundamental for the benefit and well-being of sentient beings. Okay, then let's maybe do 2 verses and then let's discuss afterwards. So the next 2 verses then now start with the wish that really all sufferings, all kinds of sufferings are removed in the world. And yeah, I'm sure you have heard of the 3 types of sufferings which are addressed here. So I will share and read the next 2 verses. May all beings everywhere plagued with suffering of body and mind, that is actually the first suffering, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtues of my merit. For as long as they remain in cyclic existence, may their mundane happiness never decline, and may all of them uninterruptedly receive waves of joy from bodhisattvas. Okay, so if we look into that, maybe just leave it up a little bit, then the first, wait, so many videos here. So then the first suffering is in verse 2. So that is the suffering of suffering. That is really like the direct suffering that many beings in samsara have. You have the direct suffering of physical problems or mental problems. And yeah, physically, from Tibetan medicine point of view, you know, every problem comes from an imbalance or from an excess of either wind, bile, or phlegm. And this excess is based also on an excess of one of the three root poisons of the mind. So Tibetan medicine is very psychosomatic, that they really think like whatever we can experience physically has a mental source. But then there's also, so that then creates like a direct physical suffering, like migraine or a stomach ache. And then we can also have direct mental suffering, which is, yeah, if you have a depression, or if you're insane, or if you're heartbroken or sad, or things like that. And so in the first two lines there, we actually we actually develop compassion, the wish that others are free from suffering and the causes of suffering. And then in the second two lines here of verse 2, we are cultivating love, that they may be happy, and have the causes of happiness and joy, physically and mentally. And this, of course, we do by dedicating our merit and virtue. So that is in regards to the first big suffering. And yeah, that, I think their suffering maybe is a good translation of the Sanskrit dukkha. Dukkha basically means it's like a wheel, in Sanskrit, a wheel that is not really well tuned, but that is a little bit broken, and so it's a very bumpy ride. Samsara is understood to be like that, a bumpy ride full of suffering, and the usual English translation is suffering, and the second suffering is the suffering of change. And that is worldly happiness, if we're happy, I don't know, to get a new fridge, and then it's breaking down or something, so that happiness of having a new fridge is already pregnant, with the danger that it's breaking down, and that is of course true for other things, even for freezers and whatever. But for everything, whatever worldly happiness that is like a happiness that is dependent on causes and conditions, whatever happiness is arising from causes and conditions, that is just bound to be impermanent, and therefore, if we are getting attached to it, then it's creating suffering. And then the last one, the suffering, I don't know, that is all pervasive, or the suffering, yeah, there are different types, different terms for it. The all pervasive suffering, there maybe suffering is not the best word, the teachers say. So that could be just a general frustration, or Khyentse Rinpoche saying insecurity, or Pondop Rinpoche saying fear or hope and fear. So that is sort of like a more like latent but constantly existent, quote unquote, thing in our mind. And here, instead of sentient beings having that suffering, we wish that, because that is really like the fundamental suffering of samsara, that is so subtle that we don't even really perceive it as ordinary beings. And so we wish that is overcome or ceased, and that then one is receiving the waves of joy from bodhisattvas, and that means that one is basically abiding in this non-abiding nirvana, Buddhahood, that bodhisattvas want to achieve. Yeah, so that is really like a very general dedication, these two, where we are dedicating that all sentient beings are free from suffering. And that is, of course, based on the understanding that, samsara is a mental state that is always colored or imbued by suffering, or defined by suffering, and therefore whoever is in samsara is suffering. And so we are praying that everybody is free of these three types of suffering. Anything you want to discuss about that? Emilia.
Just for a change.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. This the verse that says for the mundane happiness to just not decrease. Well, if the happiness is good, mundane, and it just stays, how well, kind of who am I to go and ask, but how can sometimes one actually needs a level of quite a lot of suffering to actually finally wake up and engage on the path. If it stays, oh, everything is okay, and then, okay, die, born, you know? So is there, I didn't read the commentary. I'm reading for the other chapters with the Tulku's course, but is there a motivation? Why to keep it kind of constant is actually a good thing?
Yeah, that's a very good question, I guess. Yeah, you're addressing basically the problematic situations in the God realm, right? Where they have too much worldly happiness, and therefore they don't have any inspiration or trigger to practice the Dharma because everything is too good, you know. Like human examples could be like the surfers in Byron Bay in Australia, you know, like too good, you know. It's no need to do anything, you know, no really suffering, or maybe also pets, you know, sometimes they have such a perfect life. And that is, yes, that is a little bit good, but yeah, as Emilia said, it's really dangerous because there's no friction and there's no understanding that could maybe pass, you know, and that there is suffering underneath. Yeah, I think this. So I think it's a good point, and it's really written here. Should never decline, because maybe we should not take it so literally. It of course means, yes, Emilia, I wish that you are healthy. You know, I wish that you have enough money and good friends, and so that kind of mundane happiness that is supportive for your mental well-being, that you should definitely have, you know. Otherwise, I don't want that you have like a hellish experience where then you don't have any chance to practice Dharma either. But yeah, we indeed wish also worldly happiness for beings, just but in the right dosage. So that's, I think, a very good point yet that you mentioned, Emilia, here.
Arne, just adding there, if one is already on the path, so of course, so to keep, if you go into a situation where you are just worrying about your survival and so on, is not going to help. But are these verses about people who are already on the path or those who haven't even engaged?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
For everyone, right?
That is a very general dedication here. Yeah, so it's even, of course, for non-path dwellers as well, you know. And yeah, even though suffering can be used as a good incentive to practice, but yeah, if it's too much, it's also too much. And I think all of us who are here, we are having a quite privileged, I think, situation in samsara, and there are many who just need more worldly happiness in order to have some mental space to actually think of practice or other beings, I think. So I think in that sense, yeah. But maybe us, Emilia, at least you and me, I think we have enough mundane happiness. Okay, Veronica. Sounds very Swedish, the last name.
Oh, you're close. I'm from Norway.
Yeah, wonderful.
Thank you, Arne. I am very new to Buddhism and have not been on the path for a long time. I'm really surprised about this third verse about the mundane happiness. It's a little bit linked to the previous question, but I was just wondering, again, please excuse me if you have already answered it before, but how to understand this verse? Because just to take your example with the fridge, if you were my friend, I would rather wish for you, of course, I don't wish your fridge to break down, but I would rather wish for you as my friend not to want that fridge so much, or not to be so attached to that fridge. So is it really a gift to give others to have more mundane happiness? It's a real question I ask myself, especially because I'm living in a very privileged and rich country. And I have the impression that the more mundane happiness we have, it's not really a gift. And it has nothing to do with me wanting your fridge or being jealous of your fridge. But how can we understand that verse? Is it that I wish that your fridge will not break down, or, you know, in a very narrow dualistic understanding, how can we understand that? I don't know if my question is clear.
Yes, I think so. 2 points. I think in the Tibetan, I just checked, there's actually no mention of mundane. Also in Pakmakara's translation, it's not mentioned. Second, I think in Norway, you don't need a fridge. You can put things on the terrace. And yeah, I think I was just there for Christmas in Norway, and yeah, that works. Yeah, but it's even too cold, I think. So the point is, yeah, I think it's always a matter of dosage. You know, like, yes, we wait. Let me check a thing. May their joy be undiminished. May their mundane happiness never decline. Yeah, it's really like for practitioners, if we really think about practitioners, then yeah, it is good if we have happiness and suffering. That is sort of the beauty of being a human, because we know both, and then we know what goodness can be attained, but we also know how prevalent suffering is, and we can develop compassion with others who are suffering, and suffering definitely more than us. So as a human being, yeah, it's great that we can perceive both. As I said earlier, if you're in a hell, you only perceive suffering, and then, yeah, there's no really a chance to think about the Dharma. And if you're in the God realm, there's only happiness, and there's also no chance to think about the Dharma. So therefore, yeah, the good mixture should be there, and the good dosage should be there. And yeah, I don't know, actually, no. I mean, we should definitely not, I mean, I don't know, we should not wish suffering to others, right? So that they are getting inspired to practice the Dharma. Because, yeah, as I said earlier, I think there is so much suffering already. You know, we all have our stories, our problems at the job, with partners and friends, and on the path. And I don't know. So therefore, I would today I would say I'm more on the side. Yeah, let's everybody have more happiness, even if it's impermanent and mundane. But at the same time, yeah, I really pray that nobody's really getting attached to it, you know, but that it's just creating a joyful, even impermanent but joyful atmosphere, where we then can use to practice the Dharma, you know. So that I think would be my aspiration when I. But then, if you watch movies like Fight Club, you know, then of course there's the active, the action, you know, even to create difficult circumstances for your students, you know, so that they, and I think lamas also do that. So that could be sometimes the best, you know. But that again, that depends maybe on the disciple-teacher relationship, you know, if the teacher should do that to a student. But since, yeah, I'm not a teacher, I would just by default try to make others happy. Okay, then now it's getting a little bit traditional, let's say, because now Shantideva is going through all the 6 realms of existence. As I said in my introduction, that is actually good for a dedication, you know, to be very specific and to remind yourself of all the different forms of life and forms of suffering and forms of helplessness and that others go through, and that maybe our loved ones could go through in next life, or maybe are going through already, or that we could go through in next life. So therefore, there's this whole matrix of the 6 realms explained by Buddha Shakyamuni, which are the possible rebirths based on our karma or negative actions that we accumulate, or negative emotions, I wanted to say, as a negative karma or negative emotions. Based on these 2, our mind sort of creates an experience of these 6 realms. Of course, like Trungpa Rinpoche and others, they say, yeah, but maybe we can understand these 6 realms as being projections that we as a human are going through, maybe even during the course of one day. You know, like me being maybe not well talented in sleeping, you know, I wake up more like an animal, you know, very like numb and confused and ignorant, you know, and then so that is maybe my usual start in the day, you know, and then I have maybe my best friend, the coffee, and then maybe that is uplifted, and then maybe I'm getting more to the God realm, you know, and then you know, where there's everything good, and then maybe I'm getting too arrogant, you know, and I'm not using this high of the coffee, and then I'm falling down to hell realm and get very angry and frustrated, you know. So that is sort of an idea, you know, how we could go through different realms in the course of one breakfast, even, or one day, and Trungpa Rinpoche is saying, yeah, it's also good to recognize the patterns, you know, from which realm we are jumping to which realm. But then, yeah, classical teachings and teachers, they say, yes, these realms do exist, you know, like as an entire rebirth, you know, as an entire realm. They are, of course, illusory, like the human realm, you know, so it's of the same level of existence, you know, like, but it's, I mean, in the end, everything is mind anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But what the traditional part here is in these next verses is that Shantideva's verses really refer to specific sufferings that are explained in the text that happen in very specific hell realms and hell sub-realms. So that is, yeah, so that will cover like verse 4 to 17, no, not true, 4 to 15. Yeah, just we don't have to go into all the details of the hell realms, even though I know some teachers like to do that. But I also know there are many, many books where all the hell realms are listed, and so you can find them. If you're more like a Kachipa, you can find them in Jewel Ornament of Liberation by Gampopa, or the Nyingma Pass Bible on that is maybe Words of a Perfect Teacher by Paja Rinpoche, or Jigme Lingpa's Treasury of Precious Qualities, or the Sakya Pass have, you can read it in Clarifying the Sage's Intent. Those of you who are following the complete path, that was year 1. And the Gelux, yeah, have Tsongkhapa Lamrim Chemo. So you can find the details there. Therefore, let's not be too detailed. but it's still good as a small reminder of these realms. And really, the idea is to be aware of the suffering that can exist. May it be in a different realm, may it be in the mind of somebody, it doesn't really matter. It's subjectively, it's the same. And so we wish always that these beings are free from that suffering. And of course, we also are asked, if we reflect on these realms or experiences, we are also asked to investigate our own mind, to detect any causes or conditions, that means like negative emotions, habits, and so on, that would lead to those bad situations, and that we then that we work on them while they are still fresh or young, and not yet the negative realm, but just a negative habit. Okay, let's see. So verse 4, maybe I just, wait, how do I do it? Yeah, let's just go through some realm verses and then discuss a little bit more. Up. So may all embodied creatures, verse 4. Okay, creatures I think is not the best translation for Buddhist, because we don't believe in a creator, but may all embodied beings who throughout the universe experience hellish realms come to enjoy the bliss of Sukhavati. Yeah, but I forgot to mention, of course, all realms, even there is so much full of suffering like hell, that is of course not a punishment by Buddha. That is, I think, the difference to a Abrahamic religion maybe. But Buddhism really is pointing the finger always to oneself. So whatever we experience is always a result of one's own causes and conditions / karma. So in all the 10 directions, where there are sentient beings, we say, then they're experiencing these sufferings, and as long as they're in the samsaric mind. And here, when we talk about the hell realms in general, then it could be either extreme heat or extreme cold, or other hellish experiences like being crushed, getting limbs amputated, getting tortured, and so on. And here again, with a heart full of love, we wish, by dedicating our merit, that like on the outer level, let's say, that the hell realm or the environment of hell is purified and is transformed in Sukhavati, that is the Pure Land of Amitabha. It's like let's say like a paradise in a Christian, or like, what was the term, like the land of milk and honey kind of thing. It's where everything is perfect, but it's not only on a vertical level, but you can really meet Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and receive teachings in every moment you want. And there's not even the word suffering existent. So we could understand it like that, that the outer environment is transformed. But if you want to look at more from a Vajrayana perspective, because some Vajrayana stuff is coming later in dedication, so we can already bring it in here. We wish that the projection of sentient beings is changing, and that they see that the nature of all their projections, or the hell realm projections, is actually by nature blissful, it's pure. That is how we can also perceive it. And we can also, since it mentions Sukhavati, we can, which is the Pure Land of Amitabha, we can then also wish and dedicate and pray that sentient beings are doing the prayers to Buddha Amitabha, this Devachan prayer. And and that they really work on the cause for that negative projection of hell realm, that they work on their anger, and on their malice, or even like small bitterness, according to Shantideva in the 6th chapter. There's a small bitterness or irritation, that is the first thing that happens in our mind, and then that grows into anger or hatred. So that is, as practitioners, that is our job, to check our mind constantly and detect these small traces or babies of negativity, and then apply the antidotes, depending on what jhana we are on, depending on what tools or methods we have. But we cannot let them grow, these babies, to full-grown anger or hatred. But it's always good with mindfulness. What's the other one? Vigilance or introspection, to really always check our mind. And that is true for all these verses, that we can always perceive it like that, to have more empathy with others, wishing them the best with love and compassion. But also we are always invited to check our own mind if we have any small tendencies or habits that could lead to a rebirth in that suffering realm. Okay, just go a little bit through hell realms and then we can discuss a little bit. Then number 5, now we're talking about the cold hells first. And then in the first line, obviously, may those feeble with cold find warmth. And then the hot hell realm, and may those oppressed with heat be cooled by the boundless waters that pour forth from the great clouds of the Bodhisattva's merit. Yeah, as I said, please look into other books to read more about the specific sufferings of hell realms, or the 8 cold hell realms, or the 8 hot hell realms. There's also big calculations, how long each one lasts, and there's very explicit description how the suffering is. But yeah, the gist here is, with compassion, we remember that beings suffer from intense cold, and we dedicate our merit that they live in a reasonable or warm environment. And we could even visualize our merit like the sun, that is melting all that ice, and that there's like a gentle warmth around them in their lives. And the same also, again, it's a question of dosage, if it's that too hot in some other realms, then maybe we hope that our marriage, or we also ask the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas maybe to bring coldness or coolness, clouds, rain, and so on. I mean, I'm sure you have been in very hot regions of the world, and it is a blessing if there's a cold breeze or iced coffee, even though apparently not all countries have the same idea about iced coffee as Germans. But in Germany, it's really like a nice cold coffee, and then there's ice cream in it, and it's so good in the hot summer. And then, then number 6. Now we are talking about neighboring hells. So there's like not only the 8 cold and the 8 hot hells, but then in the 4 cardinal directions there are 4 other hells, and so we have 4 times 4, 60 neighboring hells. And again, there's a lot of suffering and very disgusting things and torture that beings have to go through. And one here is singled out is the first one here. May the forest of razor-sharp leaves become a beautiful pleasure grove. So in one hell realm, yeah, instead of, for example, yeah, the gentle green leaves, you know, like the trees or the blades of the grass, they're like really like very sharp and made of like razor edged, you know. And then, of course, this is super painful if you, for whatever reason, feel like you have to go through that, and that is, yeah, very destructive, painful, and so we wish whoever is suffering from that kind of situation, may that environment become a pleasure grove. Again, we can also yeah, understand it internally, you know, like if our mind becomes razor sharp because of, I don't know, acute klesha attack, you know, of anger, then yeah, maybe calm down and relax. And then another one here, may the trees of knives and swords grow into wish-fulfilling trees. That is, yeah, that is referring to a specific area where there are these shalmali trees. Chat. Shalmali. Don't exactly know the meaning of the word. But that is another hell realm where one is reborn, especially it is said if you had sexual misconduct as a lay practitioner, or if you had sexual conduct as a monk or nun. And basically there's like a hill and you're at the foot of the hill, that's what they say. And then you hear the voice of your former lovers calling you from somewhere up there. You rush up the hill, and then there is this tree and you hear the voice from above, you know, and then you climb up, and then again the leaves are made out of iron and are very like painful, of course. And when you go and you cut yourself, and but still you hear the voice and you want to arrive to your lover, and then once you are up there, your lover is not even there, but then there are many wild birds, you know, that are attacking you, and you hear your lover's voice from below, and then you run down, and then of course you again cut yourself so often, and then it is even said then there are robots down there who eat you. It's, yeah, in the text it's written metallic men, I don't know, could be. So that is like what I meant earlier. That is one example of how explicit it is explained. And maybe you can try yourself to apply it to whatever that could mean in the context of having cheated or having done sexual misconduct, you know. Yeah, you can maybe try to figure out what that metaphorically could mean, you know, that suffering as a consequence from cheating. Again, the main thing is, yeah, that we have compassion and love towards those beings who suffer like that, mentally, physically, like exactly like that or similar like that, doesn't matter. And that we are wishing that, for example, these trees transform into wish-fulfilling trees, you know, that grant all the wishes, and that, yeah, the entire environment also becomes peaceful and happy. I think that is actually in verse 7. So let's just share that one. So then we wish may the region of hell become places of joy with vast and fragrant lotus pools, beautified with the exquisite calls of wild ducks, geese, and swans. Nice. So, yeah, that is again another example of how we wish that the outer environment is transforming into something very conducive, beautiful, pleasant, non-harming. Or again, from Vajrayana point of view, you know, we pray that the mind of these sentient beings, who at the moment is projecting this hell-like appearance or world, we wish that this mind is projecting differently, you know, and is projecting purely and projecting purely in, and then here it's like that, you know, or we could even, if we are getting very Vajrayanic, we can wish that they perceive a mandala, you know, or palace of the deity. But here it's a little bit more still on the beauty on the relative level, and not so much like as in Vajrayana, where we talk more about the beauty or purity that is beyond ordinary purity and impurity. Yeah, anything to discuss so far? Okay. Emilia.
Why, I don't know, me and my whys.
Yes, why is there why?
Why? Actually, there is a book. I looked for it after Carl said, you shouldn't be why, you should be how. Anyway, I found a book that actually says it should start with why. Anyway,
the Chinese medicine is always asking for why. I think the causality question is good.
Yeah, so I'm abiding by the causality question. Why? With all the different types of hells, but Shantideva singled out one to wish for people to transform their projections into Sukhavati. The others, yeah, wish fulfilling tree, beautiful groves, and so on and so forth. But that one is like top, because you were there with Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and that's, you know, that's the big prayer to be reborn there. Is this, why is that? Is this like the worst of all, if there is such a thing as worst of all of the hell range? Is there a reason?
No, verse 4 was generally about the hell realms, and there he is hoping that they come to enjoy the bliss of Sukhavati. But now, after the general explanation of hell realm, he is going through the different types of hell realm, and then he is sort of always understanding what are the classic examples, how it is described, the hell realm, and then he's giving the opposite, the beautiful opposite of them.
Well, so I'm assuming that the beautiful would all be happening in Sukhavati, right? Otherwise, it's a contradiction.
Yeah, Sukhavati is again a little bit similar maybe to the previous thing. Like Sukhavati is more like an ultimate solution, you know, let's wish always for that. But then on the relative level, it's also good to have some relative happiness, you know, like instead of laser sharp leaves, maybe have gentle green leaves that smell well, you know.
That plan B.
Yeah, exactly. It's always good to, you know, like Rinpoche is saying, it's always good to have, if you practice, you have the horse and the donkey, you know. Horse riding is better and faster, but yeah, in case you're falling down or not knowing how to do it, it's good to have the backup donkey, you know. And likewise, yeah, it's of course we should aim for the ultimate happiness, liberation, but if that doesn't work, it's conducive to have, yeah, conducive, and that also means sometimes happy situations on a relative level. Okay, Pallavi, it must be super late in here.
Yeah. Just to add to what Emilia asked, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. Yeah. So I feel that you know, though the sentences mentioned like Sukhavati, and for the others it's mentioned like may it have like swan and the goose and all these lovely things. It's their idea of Sukhavati as well, you know, though it's
yes,
not
that's good. Yeah,
explicitly. So it's just describing it a little more. And for me, I think for me, it's not a comment or a question. Later, what I actually raised my hand for, I just feel these things are very visual, and it's quite interesting to really sharpen the, you know, it feels really good to see and visualize the transformation of what the hell realm is and transforming into these lovely things.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that, but maybe if one takes a tiny little bit of LSD, that could be really interesting to meditate on these verses. Again, not suggesting it, but And yeah, what you said, it's of course a very like Indian, maybe also. I mean, you know better, but I mean, how Sukhavati is explained, or paradise, is of course very like culturally colored. You know, like for me, it would be like this great Wi-Fi. You know, that would be like one of the first things. You know, or a good bed. You know, that in a dark room. You know, so these things. You know, it's very like individual. Yeah. Okay, we have to go a little bit through the verses, actually. Thank you, both of you. Number 8. Why is that always shown here, this thing from Zoom? May the heaps of burning coals change into heaps of jewels. So that is that is actually something related to the hottest of the hells, the Avicii hell. That is where one is reborn. It's sort of the worst case scenario where one is reborn if one is really doing the 5 heinous acts, you know, it's called, like killing one's father or mother or an arhat, or maybe your mother is an arhat, you know, and or if you shed the blood of a Buddha, you know, with bad intention, or if you divide a sangha, you know, these are like the 5 really worst actions, you know, and then one is suffering these consequences of being born in Avicii hell, and there are these burning coals. So here, again, he's saying, yeah, may that change into the heaps of jewels. So again, the opposite. So he's taking something that appears there, but then, yeah, it's may it be like maybe, yeah, he's bringing something that looks similar, but in a very positive way. May the burning ground becomes a polished crystal floor. Not Polish, but polished. Yeah. And may the mountains of the crushing hells become celestial palaces of worship filled with sugatas. Yeah, that is again another hell where it's a neighboring hell that I mentioned earlier a little bit. It's like when there are big mountains, you know, like moving towards each other, and we are crushed in the middle. I don't know, maybe that is how insects feel, you know, if we step on them, you know. And then, of course, the bodies are broken, and so, yeah, we then that shall be transformed or perceived differently, you know, as a celestial palace filled with the Buddhas, you know. Sugatas are the blissfully gone. It's another epithet of Buddhas. And Sugatas always also implies that then teachings are happening, you know, guidance is happening. Monica.
Hi, Arne. Hi, everybody. So when in the text it says that made the hellish realms transform into heavenly-like realms, does that mean that, could it mean that actually the hell realm is a mind experience, and that, for instance, in one of the Bhumis, bodhisattvas are actually, they have their flesh cut and they don't feel pain. But for an ordinary being, that could be a hellish experience, having their limbs cut. But for a bodhisattva, could be they don't feel pain. So could it be that, you understand my question?
I guess, but can you just finish the sentence? Could it be that?
Could it be that actually a bodhisattva could be in a hell realm and actually don't feel any pain, but feel bliss?
Yes. Because, yes, the idea of bodhisattvas or Buddhas is that they manifest wherever there are beings who are suffering, and therefore I think Geshe Shekava, for example, you know, the author of the Lojong teachings, he prayed to be born in the hell realm because because beings there really need guidance, and that is then, of course, they are not suffering there because a normal standard hell being is born there because of basically anger, hatred, and negative karma, and that is compelling the hell being, compelling the being in the hell realm and experiencing suffering. But bodhisattvas, they manifest in hell beings out of wisdom and compassion, and therefore that is not the cause for suffering. So they will not suffer; they will just appear there out of their goodwill and not being controlled by karma.
Yeah. But they are kind of an spectator. No, how do you say that?
Spectator,
observer.
Yeah, I mean, that is, I think, a general feature of bodhisattvas, that they're observing things as if in a movie, you know, like they know about the dreamlike or illusory-like nature of things, and they're not getting entangled at all in anything. But that is not like a cool distance, but because they're not entangled, therefore they can have like warm love, you know, to everyone.
Yeah, but my question was more if they feel something in their own skin, like for instance, their body being cut into pieces, do they feel pain?
I think that depends on the level of the bhumi, no?
Yeah.
I mean, like as an ordinary bodhisattva, like we might also do something in this life, you know, maybe do something good for somebody else with a good motivation and our best possible wisdom. And yeah, we might feel pain at that level. But yeah, if you're really on the bhumis, then I think you are beyond that. So yeah, if you really intentionally be reborn in hell realm, you know, if you have that caliber, then I think you are free from much suffering. But if I, as a samsaric being and wannabe bodhisattva, are praying to be in hell to be of benefit there, I might still suffer, but hopefully not regretting it.
So they say, it said that everything depends on causes and conditions. Could it be that one cause or one condition for experience, for having this hellish experience, could be the self-clinging? If they didn't have self-clinging, they wouldn't feel like that?
You mean bodhisattvas or normal hell beings?
I don't know, whoever.
I mean, normal hell beings, they are born because of hatred, and that is coming from self-clinging. Yes.
Yes.
A bodhisattva on the bhumi doesn't have that self-clinging, but is appearing in hell realm because of compassion and wisdom. Me, as a samsaric aspiring bodhisattva, can still wish to be born in a hell realm, and I still have my ego clinging, and therefore, yeah, I will still suffer.
Yeah, so ego clinging is one of the ingredients that make beings suffer in the hell realm, no?
Yes, or in other realms too. Yeah, no matter where. As long as you have self-clinging, you always divide things in friend and enemy, you know? I mean, inanimate and animate things, you know, like something that you like and something that you dislike. And therefore, you always suffer from getting what you don't want, and you suffer from not getting what you want. So that is the default setting of an ego-clinging mind.
But is there any karma without self-clinging? People who have karma but don't have self-clinging? No.
Yeah, the bodhisattva bhumis, they don't have the bhumi bodhisattvas. Don't have the self-clinging like per se, but they still have traces of karma that needs to be dissolved.
Oh, so karma is a more difficult thing to dissolve than self-clinging.
Yeah, it's like you know, if you have cooked with garlic, you know, I have the garlic and the stinky smell. But a bhumi bodhisattva, they have removed the garlic of self-clinging, but they still have the stinky smell, you know? So that needs more washing. But it's still there.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, then Why did I mute myself? 10. No, 9. So another Hellrium, most likely a neighboring hell of lava. May the rains of lava, blazing stones, and weapons again be transformed in something, instead of a rain of lava with this like super hot and destructive, may it become a rain of flowers. And may all battling with weapons from now on be a playful exchange of flowers. Yeah, I think that the idea is always the same, like he's quoting what is explained how a specific Hellrium looks like, and then may that be, and then he's using always a very similar looking thing, like a rain here in this case, but then receiving a shower of beautiful flowers is something more auspicious and gentle and maybe inspiring and touching. And likewise here with weapon, maybe be in a beautiful garden where the youthful gods are playing with flowers, that kind of idea. Number 10. By the force of my virtue, may those caught in the fiery torrents of acid, their flesh eaten away, revealing their lily-white bones, obtain the bodies of celestials, and dwell with goddesses in gently flowing rivers. Yeah, that is also another Hellrium. Vajrayana is that Hellrium called. And yeah, that is just, again, to be a little bit traditional. The idea is that you're born there either because you're killing water animals, or you are a pedophile, or you are stealing from the Sangha. That I think are the 3 reasons to be born. And so therefore, classically, the Hellrium is explained like that. So one is in this Hellrium and there's a river, and then you see animals in the water, fishes or otters or whatever swan, and you have so much the habit to want to kill them, And then you're seeing children in the river, and they are asking for help, and yeah, you have your pedophile tendencies, and you want to take them for whatever. Or you see on the other side of the river, you see like Sangha property, and then you want to go there and to get it for yourself, So that is our usual tendencies if we have one of these problems. And so therefore you jump into the river, and then the river transforms into burning ashes, and your body is sinking and will be burned, and the waves will throw your body to the rocks, and then the water animals will eat your flesh, and then your white bones will be revealed. And there, I think there's also other animals, then who, remove all your flesh, and then you remain like a skeleton. And then that is also a feature of Hellriums. Then normally, then the whole thing repeats. Then you are thrown out maybe by a wave out of the river, and you're touched by the wind, and then you have again this form, and then you again jump into the river. So that many Hellriums are like that, repeatedly going through the same suffering. So here, then the idea is that it's again completely the opposite. That beings may be free from that suffering and these negative tendencies. In regards to animals, kids, or property of the Sangha, and that they dwell in God realms and have a very like smooth, gentle, and conducive environment. So then 11. I don't know if you know, but there are like 8 bodhisattvas that are often mentioned in texts, and we will now go through all of them, especially the first three. And the names were mentioned. That's why will be mentioned. That's why I'm not mentioning them now. Maybe the most important are Vajrapani and Manjushri and Avalokiteshvara. And the idea here is that we may be now doing a practice on that specific bodhisattva. Let's say Avalokiteshvara, if you are very familiar with that practice, then maybe we can do that practice in regards to hell realm beings that we are visualizing. For example, this Avalokiteshvara is appearing there, and that he or she, depending on where we are coming from, so Avalokiteshvara is manifesting there and liberating the beings from the hell realm. And we are having that visualization and then reciting the mantra. And so that is basically what the next verses are about. But with one of the 8 bodhisattvas each. So, and the story is always that that the beings in the hell realms don't see the deity at some point, but then suddenly they see the deity. So first, 11, the hell realm beings don't see Vajrapani in this case. If we, for example, practice Vajrapani and we visualize that Vajrapani is appearing in the hell realm, we recite his mantra on Vajrapani Hum, radiating light, and so on. And so then we visualize that the hell beings are asking, why are the henchmen, the janitors or whoever, the workers of Yama, which are the unbearable buzzards and vultures and so on, why are they afraid? Through whose noble strength is joy brought upon us and darkness dispelled? So suddenly they see more light and better atmosphere in the hell realm. Then they look up and then they behold in the firmament the radiant form of Vajrapani. Through the force of their joy, may they be free from evil and find his company. So that is generally then how we visualize if we want to do that practice. Vajrapani appears there. First, the hell workers sort of see him, they get afraid, run away, and then the hell beings see Vajrapani, get inspired, and he is taking them to his pure Buddha field. And I think of Vajrapani, it's called willow trees, his Buddha field. The same then in the next verse with Avalokiteshvara, here called Padmapani. Also, the hell beings don't see Avalokiteshvara that we can do in our Avalokiteshvara practice, but the hell beings see that the lava fires of hell are extinguished by a rain of falling flowers mixed with scented waters, from the sky, from Avalokiteshvara. Immediately satisfied, they wonder whose work this was. They look up and see Avalokiteshvara, get inspired, get connection. Avalokiteshvara is helping, liberating them, bringing them to his pure realm, which is Potala. And so that is what we can visualize if we want to practice Avalokiteshvara. Then, next one, Manjushri. Number 13. Friends, don't be afraid, but quickly gather here. What need is there to flee when above us is the youthful Manyugosha? It's another name for Manjushri. In Tibetan, Jamyang, like Tsongtsa Jamyang, Khyentse Wangpo, to dispel our fears. The tender Bodhisattva, tender means is part of the Jamyang thing. The tender Bodhisattva who protects all living beings, through whose might all suffering is removed and the force of joy abounds. The same with Manjushri. Manjushri is the Bodhisattva of wisdom. So, and wisdom is really that which really removes all suffering from the root, because if you have wisdom, like regarding to Monica's question, if you have wisdom, then of course you don't have self-clinging, then of course you don't have karma or negative emotions, then of course you don't have suffering. But Manjushri has equally unconditioned compassion or love, like Avalokiteshvara. So then we can visualize like that if we want to practice Manjushri for the hell beings. And also, he's to dispel our fears that we also know from the Heart Sutra, right? When we talk about wisdom, at some point it's written in the Heart Sutra, there's no fear, I think shortly before the mantra that dispels all fear and suffering. So that is like the essence of wisdom, is dispelling all fears. Again, because it dispels self-clinging, and without a reference point like self, there can be no fear and no hope. Still continuing with Manjushri. Behold him in an enchanting palace, resounding with hymns sung by 1,000 goddesses, with the tiaras of 100 gods being offered to his lotus feet, and a rain of many flowers falling on his head, the eyes of which are moist with kindness. Upon seeing Manjughosha in this way, more those in hell cry out loud with joy. So now they see Manjushri, they offer, and they are receiving blessing or flowers falling, and the suffering is dispelled. And that, we can practice when we do Manjushri. And then the same here with the other 5 of the 8 bodhisattvas, even though here only 2 of them mentioned. Likewise, having seen, due to the roots of Mahosam deeds, the cool and sweet-smelling rain falling from joyful clouds, created by the Bodhisattva Samantabhadra and Sava Nirvana Vishkambi. The others would be Akashagarbha, maybe you know him from confession prayers. Maitreya, we know the name, and Kshitigarbha. May all beings in hell be truly happy. I think that is always the same template here. Whatever, if we want to do that kind of practice, then we can just do the practice that we are most used to. So if Manjushri is one of our favorite or main yidams, then let's do Manjushri. That is more powerful if we have that connection or familiarity. Okay, let's go to a realm that we can actually observe and that we're actually messing with. That is the animal realm. Usually, if we talk from low to up, we talk about hell realm and then hungry ghost realm, but here the second is animal realm. May all animals be free from the fear of being eaten by one another. May the hungry ghost be as happy as the men of the northern continent. So, as I said, animal realm we can really see, and usually the cause for being born there is ignorance, or also could be even like aversion towards the Dharma, it is said, and which is maybe the same. And in Buddhist context, the animals are divided into those who live in the oceans and those who live on the earth. And of course, we have many different fishes and crabs and whatever. And the general idea is that they are ignorant, those beings in the oceans. Of course, there is intelligence. We know that, from dolphins or octopuses. That's very observable. That there is that all animals have a certain amount of intelligence, but the general problem for animals is that they cannot really, for example, learn the Dharma, which means they cannot really learn the truth and to learn what to adopt and what to abandon to to sustainably or ultimately attain happiness. And yeah, the animals in the ocean, they eat each other. Big ones eating the small ones eating the big ones. Like if you are a parasite or something. And the nagas are also, some nagas are also included in that realm. Yeah, and then animals on the earth, they're also eating each other, and there's a constant fear and homelessness. And I don't know if you have seen the movie Earthlings. It's already quite old now, but that was like Jack McKenzie Rinpoche wanted us at that time to watch it like 100 times, and there like it is explained how much suffering humans inflict on animals. So like one, for example, is that we slaughter them for their meat, or we imprison them for their milk. So that is one. The other one was that we are slaughtering them maybe for their skin, you know, as clothing, or for, what is it, bags, you know, from alligator or snake skin. And the third is that we are domesticating them, for example, and then they have to carry very heavy loads, or we imprison them, you know, as pets or in a zoo, or we just enslave and torture them, you know, for our entertainment in circus, or number 5 was there that we imprison and torture them, yeah, for research reasons. Yeah, as you notice, that is not the total academic example, but it is explanation. But I think that's how we do it as humans. And of course, the classical texts speak already about a couple of them, because apparently humans always did that like this. Yeah, and yeah, animals suffer, yeah, as I said already, because they're ignorant, confused, and they don't know what to do and what to adopt. And yeah, they don't really have the ability to practice the Dharma. Therefore, the prayer here by Shantideva, may all animals be free from the fear of being eaten by one another. And yeah, we are also praying that they may be reborn in a more conducive realm, you know, for Dharma practice, which is the human realm. But again, human realm is not the absolute aim, but it is a good conducive situation to then ultimately attain Buddhahood. And yeah, and we pray that animals have the contact then to the Dharma and the intelligence to listen to it. And yeah, that is what we wish for them. Okay, I know it's already late. Can we just finish the pretas, also the hungry ghost, and then that would be a good conclusion for today. And wait, I show them. So the second, actually, or in this this listing here, the third is the hungry ghosts. That is just this one. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it's this two exactly. Here. May the hungry ghost be as happy as the men of the northern continent. May they be satisfied by a stream of milk pouring from the hand of the noble Lord Avalokiteshvara, and by bathing in it, may they always be cooled. So the hungry ghost or pretas, again, this you can find in human realm also, you know, like beings who have a lot of covetousness or jealousy, or being stingy and not really using things they have, you know, using opportunities or wealth, or health or abilities, you know, that is sort of this preta or hungry ghost mentality that we can find definitely in humans. And yeah, and there are very different types of pretas. Some are really huge, you know, and these very huge ones, they have really this what is it called, poverty mentality, you know, like they always think, I have nothing, I should not give to others, and they are very weak, and their perception is, yeah, whenever they often hallucinate, sort of, they think they see some food or some water to drink, but then actually it's just it's a dry riverbed, or it's just stones or whatever. And then there is this classical depiction of pretas, and they are the pretas called pretas with inner obscurations. They normally don't find food, and if they find a little bit, you know, they have very small mouths, so they cannot really put something in, and also their throat and is also super narrow, so nothing can really go through. And then even if something goes through, they have this huge belly where everything is immediately burned, and of course this belly is never fulfilled, or that preta is never satisfied. So that is, yeah, I guess, like an archetype of being not satiable, never wanting, always wanting more, never being satisfied. And then there are also some pretas who are like parasites of other pretas, and they're eating each other. And yeah, so there are many descriptions. And so here Shantideva is saying, yeah, so if they live in this poverty mentality, so here he's praying that they may be happy like men of the northern continent. Maybe for those who practice mandala offering, maybe you remember, like if you do 37 mandala offering, one continent is called what was it called, Utakuru. So that is one of them, and that is this northern continent. Nagarjuna also went there once, but he didn't make the best impression there. But that is another story. But so that is really like a paradise kind of thing, where your harvest is growing, you know, without any work, you know, and nobody owns anything, you know, but everything is like, there's no owner, but everything is just there, you know, without any effort, and everybody can use everything. So there's a lot of harmony, virtues, and gentleness, and no consumerism, and no clinging to anything. So that is sort of the opposite, you know, this the relaxedness and gentleness, and not wanting to own things, and not being stingy with things. So that is, of course, not the ultimate solution, but Shantideva is wishing that the hungry ghosts are free from that. Yeah, and that they are satisfied, you know, through the nectar, the milky nectar of Avalokiteshvara. And the milky nectar has always a connotation, like, yeah, that it's cooling and nourishing and sweet, you know, and that all this negative emotions, this heat of negative emotions is cooled. And yeah, so that they are getting healed from all their suffering. Okay, these were the first 17 verses, and these were the specific sufferings of the lower realms that Shantideva is inviting us to remember, being aware of, contemplating upon. And we do that, yeah, really to develop compassion with them, and not to forget that other beings are indeed suffering a lot. And also we wish that, yeah, our dear ones, or yeah, ideally whoever, that nobody will be born there, you know. And again, also we ourselves should always check if we have any slight tendency that may make us be born there. So that was this. And Friday, if you feel like coming back, we can talk about the sufferings of the higher realms and the rest of the verses. But is there anything you want to discuss now? Okay. Then let's be caring and do the sharing of the hopefully some virtues that come about by just talking and thinking about these Buddhist texts. Where is the prayer here? Yeah, really like have in mind all sentient beings because they are all who want to be happy, but yeah, out of ignorance, they just don't know how to attain that. And so instead of attaining the happiness they wish for, they create more and more causes for suffering. Yeah, a little bit like an autoimmune disease, I guess. And that is super useless. And so please have all of them in mind and yeah, dedicate whatever positive we have accumulated now or you have accumulated today or this lifetime or every other lifetime, so that everybody might be free from the suffering and attain Buddhahood. By this merit, having attained omniscience and defeated the enemy of wrongdoing, may I free all beings from the ocean of existence with its tumultuous waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. And this is now an example for that we just dedicate how other bodhisattvas did it. So because we know our dedication is limited, so therefore we just do it like the heroes. Just as the heroic Manjushri who knows everything as it is, and as Samantabhadra likewise did too, just so to follow all of them and train myself, I perfectly dedicate these meritorious actions. Then Nagarjuna's Bodhichitta prayer. May the precious Supreme Bodhichitta arise in those in whom it has not arisen. Having arisen, may it not diminish, but ever expand more and more. And then one prayer of the 10th chapter, which will come next time. As long as space remains and as long as the world remains, may I too remain to elevate the suffering of the world. And then a prayer for the long life of the Dharma, which would be like the last aim of the 10th chapter, but it's another prayer. It's by Buddha Dolpopa. May I, in each and every lifetime, carry the weight of Buddha Shakyamuni's teachings. And if I cannot bear that weight, at the very least may be borne with the burden of thinking that the Buddha Dharma could wane. Thank you. You made it. And yeah, if you want, we can see each other in 2 days. Caring and sharing, part 2. Okay, stay healthy and good to see you guys. See many familiar faces.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Thank you.
Ciao, Bella.
Thank you, bardzo, thank you.
Thanks, Arne. Thank you. Thank you.